Are we live? Yes, we are. Hey, everybody. We
Hey
are
y'all.
back. We are back like we never left. We had to take a break for some reasons that we're not going to talk about today.
I
It
think
is
it's
what it
okay to
is.
talk about it
Now,
because it can help people.
maybe. Well,
Yeah.
okay. Well, anyway, we are back. Hey, everybody. I am your
Hey y'all.
co-host, Deante,
And I'm Shekema, his wife.
and we are the Dunlaps. You
We're
are
the
in it
Dunlaps.
with us again. Thank you for tuning in. Thank
Yeah.
you for joining us. We are so happy that you came. Thank you for tuning in and all that good stuff. We appreciate your love and your support. All right, we're gonna jump right on into it. Today is the Cypher. We're
Today's
doing
the
the
Cypher.
Cypher. One of my favorite things, one of my old pastimes as a youngster in the middle of the Cypher freestyle and kicking with the rhymes. But we ain't gonna rhyme today. We're gonna freestyle off of topics today.
But
What's
you
on our
definitely
mind.
could, though. I want to just
Yeah.
interject and say that you
Well, I'm
definitely could.
I'm a little rusty, but
Better than
rusty knife,
most.
a rusty knife will still cut you. So,
Still better than most, baby.
hey, you know what I'm saying? But in typical Dunlap fashion, when you're in it with us, you get a little bit of history. So we're gonna kick it off today in typical fashion. What do we want to talk about in the social justice area, baby? What
So,
happened?
couple things. So today in history, March 21st, 1981, Michael Donald was hanged by members of the Klan in Mobile, Alabama. And we just came through Mobile. We always go home through Mobile. Well, not always, but
Most of the
generally.
time. Most of the time.
So Michael Donald was hanged and murdered by the Klan. Um, on March 21st, 1981, a 19-year-old Black man named Michael Donald was beaten, strangled, and slashed at the throat and hanged in Mobile, Alabama by two members of the United Klans of America. Initially, local police wrongly attributed Mr. Donald's death to drug violence, as always, but his family insisted that he had not been involved in drug activity and demanded a more thorough investigation. Tests also showed no trace of drugs in Mr. Donald's body. Authorities later charged Klansmen Henry Hayes and James Knowles with Mr. Donald's murder and charged Benjamin Cox Jr. as an accomplice. Evidence revealed that local Klan leaders had been monitoring the trial of Josephus Anderson, a Black man charged with killing a white police officer in Birmingham, Alabama. When that trial ended in a mistrial on March 21st, because the jury was unable to reach a verdict, members of the Klan in Mobile sought to make violence a response. If a Black man can get away with killing a white man, said Benny Hayes, a high-ranking Klansman and father of Henry Hayes, we ought to be able to get away with killing a Black man. Michael Donald was killed that night. All three white men charged with Michael Donald's death were convicted. Mr. Knowles and Mr. Cox received life sentences and were later paroled, while Mr. Hayes was sentenced to death and executed by the state of Alabama in 1997. In 1984, Michael Donald's mother, Beulah Donald, sued the United Klans of America. She ultimately won a $7 million wrongful death suit. Though very little money was ever collected, the ruling did bankrupt the white supremacist organization. That is today in history, March 21st, 1981.
Wow. There's a little bit of everything in that one.
Yeah, and there is a great documentary about Michael Donald's mother and how she basically ended that organization, that iteration, because they always come back. It's like a
Right.
hydra. But how she didn't really get any money. She got some, but nothing in comparison to the pain and suffering and the loss of her son's life. But she did cause that organization to go bankrupt and close. And it reminds me of a couple things, recent things. So the EJI's website, which is where we always get our today in social justice history, on March 3rd this year, they posted something about a Tennessee lawmaker's comments about lynching. So this is a Tennessee state representative, so not a member of the U.S. government, but the state legislature. Lawmakers were discussing House Bill 1245, which would allow electrocution as an alternative to lethal injection, and an amendment that would add execution by firing squad. When Representative Paul Sherrill of Sparta said, I was just wondering, could I put an amendment on that would include hanging by tree also? So CNN carried footage of the statement. There is video evidence of him saying it. EJI has already documented 236 racial terror lynchings of Black people in Tennessee between 1877 and 1950. If the Donald case is any indication that hangings are still taking place, then there are likely many more, right, that maybe have not even been considered lynchings. But for this legislator to even intimate that lynching, hanging by a tree, which we know who that means, right, should be lawful in the case of a crime, when almost every lynching that has ever taken place in America was instigated, right, by the idea that a Black man committed a crime for which he didn't really deserve to have a jury trial. Or it's unthinkable. And for me, the straw that breaks the camel's back is the recent death of Rasheem Carter in Mississippi. This was about 2 weeks ago. He was missing. His family reported him missing. And they called on the DOJ to investigate because they believed he was lynched. His body was dismembered when they found him. And so I'll tell you a little bit about that story. So the family of a Black man whose remains were found a month after he went missing in Mississippi believes he was lynched and dismembered. And they called on the U.S. Justice Department to investigate. And he had sent his mother a text saying that white men in trucks were trying to kill him. He sent his mother that text before he went missing. And his head was severed from his body, and his spinal cord was separated from his head, and other body parts were scattered. He went missing in October, and they're just figuring out like all these things because they're just finding the body parts. So I just wanted to ask for a moment of silence for 25-year-old Rasheem Carter of Mississippi and his family. Thank you.
It ain't even a lot to say. I think the story speaks for itself. The it's just heinous. It is barbaric. It's brutal. It is, again, it's that heart of darkness. You know, that heart of evil. You know, as if you can call it that. I don't even. It's just treachery on a level that's almost inexplicable. But you know, it's that is terrifying, knowing that, you know, things of that nature are happening. You know, I mean, you know, of course we don't know the whole story, but if, you know, when you think about the implications of, you know, the story implies that, you know, these were strangers who just decided that, hey, that's the one we're gonna do. And to it's just cruelty on a obscene level, you know, and no, I can't imagine anybody making peace with something like that, knowing that it happened to a loved one. And so it's just
There have been several cases of Black bodies, being found with organs missing, which suggests at this point that the lynchings are not to eat us, and it's not to barbecue us and eat us, but to harvest organs, to steal melanin, maybe. But just the idea of decapitating someone and detaching their spinal cord, like what that goes beyond rage.
That's
Rage is
calculated.
like a strangling or a gunshot or something like that, but that is like almost calculated,
Mm-hmm.
methodical,
Intentional.
evil.
You know, they want whoever did this. They wanted to do it, and they took pleasure in it.
They took pleasure in it.
And it's inexcusable. It's hard. You can't explain that away. That is, yeah, that is, like I said, that's just inexcusable.
Yeah. And part of like the text messages that he sent to his mom before the night that he went missing. So like earlier that month, he had talked about, he sent her text messages saying that he and the owner of the company that he was working for weren't seeing eye to eye, and it was a white man, right? And he sent her a text. He didn't say who it was, but he said, if anything happened to me, he's responsible for it. He said, I'm too smart, mama. He's got these guys wanting to kill me. And then the text message comes October 1st, with the saying that 3 truckloads of white guys were trying to kill him. That idea of being too smart, that's prevalent throughout American history, where knowing too much, whether it's your basics, the alphabet at some point, knowing too much and being Black is like the call sign for we got to get rid of you, right? And I think about, with my students right now, they've been doing research papers on multicultural short stories from American literature, and one of the stories that they read was Ralph Ellison's The Black Ball. And there's a line in the story where the narrator talks about being referred to as that damn educated nigger. And here we are in 2023 and having the ability to think for yourself, having the ability to advocate for yourself, to challenge injustice, to challenge unrighteousness, is met with murder.
You said something, before we go to our next topic, you said something that I think that as a people, we think that because we say a lot about, I can't believe that things like this are still happening in 2023. And I think what's important to recognize is that evil don't sleep.
That's it.
Bigotry has no expiration date, neither does ignorance. And I think it's shocking because we think that these things are outdated or these things shouldn't be happening, but it's like evil don't sleep. Evil, if evil goes away, it just finds its right time to bring itself back to light. And I think the key is to keep shining the light on it. And don't behold it to the past. And remember that that same energy, that same spirit, that same mindset is pervasive throughout history. And it's something that, I don't know, it's no matter when it happens, we should have moments of silence. We should, like I said, continue to shine the light on it and don't minimize it by time. because that stuff is immortal, and it's just as the, it's the just as it's been here just as long as the concepts of good and evil, and it don't sleep. It just picks its time to show itself. It's an unfortunate thing, and I think that if we keep the fight, if we keep it going and recognize that it's going to be here, there is no timetable but we have to be at the door to meet it every time, to shine the light on it and to stand against it. I think that's the key thing, and it's a shame that these things aren't outdated, but we have to evolve as a species, to get past that. And, I don't know if we're quite there yet. I'm not sure that we're quite, human beings as a whole. We draw so many lines and so many categorizations, and we find ways to be. The darkness finds its way, and it finds its way in the most vulnerable, and sometimes sometimes those who aren't that vulnerable. So it's a very pervasive thing that is hard to pin down, and it is elusive, it is deceptive, and most of all, it's corruptive, and it just corrodes and destroys everything that it touches. It's just you have some thoughts. Would you want to share?
I was just thinking about the concept of heaven and hell, right? And this is supposed to be such a Christian nation that we, have created laws that prevent people from, aborting babies because we're worried about the sanctity of life. And in the same breath, and I think about the concept of heaven and hell, how as it has been passed down to people who look like me. And it's clear that some people don't really believe that. If you truly believed there was a heaven and a hell, then you would move differently. And it makes me, conscious that there have to be people who really believe that this plane of existence is all there is, right? That if man's laws, or if society is unable to punish you for your deeds or misdeeds, if all of you believe that your reward is here and that when you die, there's nothing, right? It's just total darkness and you're asleep, then you take liberties to do things like hangings, like murders, like oppress people. You take liberties with that because there's no way you believe in an afterlife and you live like that in this.
Well, and I agree with that, but I would like to add to that, in the sense that of the mindset of, because I've heard this said before, and I believe this is part of it, is the mindset that there are some that rather be kings in hell than perceived slaves in heaven. So I think it depends on the person. I think it's just,
that's a very interesting take.
I think some people prefer, what we would consider hell versus what, because heaven to them may in turn be heaven to us, may be hell to them in reverse. So it's a really interesting comparison when you start to really look at what, especially from a value standpoint,
right?
Because again, if being a king in hell means to do what you want to do, versus what they think the perception of what you might be in what they perceive as heaven, So,
and so in that vein, the laws are just to keep the rest of us within the guidelines, right? So the laws are to keep the rest of us in the rails, so we don't go outside the box, right? Because if we all start to give up on the law, if we all start to give up on the idea of an afterlife, where there's recompense for your behaviors and misgivings in this plane, then there's nothing to stop us from retaliating.
Yeah. And, some people rather take something than nothing, So it is a really deep puddle to step into.
Mm-hmm.
And, the human mind, the human spirit is a very complex and very fickle thing.
Yeah.
And it's in that line between good and evil, love and hate, fear and love.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, very thin line.
Yeah.
So
that said, transition us to something else.
let's talk about.
It's gonna be a little creepy, y'all. I'm just giving y'all a warning.
I won't call it creepy. So
Creepy.
let's talk about today in technology history. These I think these would be pretty good.
Okay.
By the way, we are this is also from the website thisdayintechhistory.com. We are not sponsored by these websites.
No,
These
we are
are
not. We would love to be though. Thanks.
these are on our own, on our own doing, things that we find worthy of sharing with you. So with that being said, let's talk about March 21st and the past. All right. On this day, 1965, the launch of Ranger 9, more space exploration. NASA launches Ranger 9, the last of the Ranger series of unmanned lunar exploratory spacecraft. Ranger 9 was the first moon probe to point its cameras directly in the direction of its travel, capturing 5,814 detailed images of the moon's surface into which it would crash land almost 3 days later. It also sent back video images which were broadcast on live TV. The Ranger series was the precursor to the Apollo moon landing program. Interesting.
Wow.
The moon, the
Yep.
thing that creates the tides, that raises the water and lowers the water. So I've heard some interesting theories on the moon, but I think that'll be for another topic. That I don't want to derail the conversation. And then this day in 2006, I think everybody will relate to this one. The world's very first tweet.
Okay.
Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey sends the world's first non-automated tweet. Quote, just setting up my Twitter, which was spelled completely wrong, soon to be followed by the just as engrossing quote, and I quote, inviting coworkers. A note to future entrepreneurs. When doing the first of anything, it may be for posterity, so try to be interesting. So those are our date. Those are our two happenings. March 21st in history. The first one was 1965. And the second one, the world's first tweet, was in 2006. Thank you. I want to give
that makes sense though.
Because I want to give a thanks to the This Day in Tech History site. I thought that was some pretty good information, but go ahead.
No, and I'm sorry for interrupting. It just, I don't remember a time without Twitter. But now that you bring it up that it was 2006, I'm like, that makes sense because I was using it to teach, around 2010-ish. So by that time, I guess I was a late adopter. But it was still relatively new to most people. But then I'm thinking about, we were talking earlier today about technology, and I received the invitation to participate in Google's new AI program called the Bard. And for those of you who are familiar with Shakespeare is the Bard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it basically, one of the features that, like in the advertisement that it was trying to get, to get you excited about it was saying, let the Bard write your new novel. And I was like, wait a minute. So now you could be totally illiterate and be a best-selling author.
Just have an idea.
Everybody can have a PhD at this point because all you got to do is get AI to write it for you. So we're going to have to figure out systems around that, right? Because, like what is that going to mean for knowledge creation? content create? Like, what is that going to mean when you go to the New York Times best-selling list and a third of them are written by people and the other third are written by AI? And is AI like internalizing all of the best qualities of the best human writers and creating their own algorithm to say, like, we know, like, based on all the bestsellers throughout time? Or how Amazon, not Amazon, but Barnes and Noble used to sell a book called The 100 Best Novels Ever Written or something, or 100 Novels You Need to Know. And, you know, in the year 2050, how many of those will be written by AI versus people? And so I just think about things like that. You know, I Twitter changed my life, I can say. Um, and I didn't think anything of it. It just kind of came through and I just accepted it. But I'm a little bit more leery of this AI, like the chat GPT and stuff like that, because I'm an English teacher. And so the thing that I like about Twitter is that it's about concision. You have 140 characters, or they had other, extensions that you could use to give you longer tweets. But for the most part, you had to get to the point,
Right.
and it's so fun when somebody does like a whole Twitter thread that's like a novel or something, and you have to follow the thread. I love it when people do that. That's a part of what makes us people. And
Right.
so, what are your thoughts about that?
So I have a lot of thoughts about it. I'm really interested in the AI space personally. I've as a techie, as a guy, as a dude who grew up on, all things, technology, Star Trek, Back to the Future, all types of, space exploration movies, time travel, movies like iRobot, Terminator, just, you name it. And just the ideations that you can come up with, thinking about a sentient machine, and while I do see some very concerning things, I do think there's some levels that AI won't be able to reach. But the truth is that but despite the things that AI can't do, it's very far reaching. When you've seen some of the artwork, just the general, just as an artist, I'm looking at some of the art that AI can generate, and it's mind blowing sometimes. Just a few words, a few descriptive words, and it can create some incredible imagery. Even with the writing, and so it does put a lot of the creative space on notice. It does bring a lot of concern there. How do you compete with something like that? But in kind of exploring some of my, some thoughts around it, this is going to drive people to be more authentic.
Okay.
This is going to be where the creatives come out. I mean, you have those who you have, those artists that can, just talk about, animators and, artists. I want to say most animators, or those that do, graphic, computer generated graphics. Most of those people are pretty good, what's the description, artists by hand. They can draw on paper and they can draw on the PC. They can draw digitally. And so this is going to, I can see this being a move back to that more hand drawn. Like I don't want a AI generated picture. I want something that a person drew,
Okay.
something that came from your mind. And so this is an opportunity for those who are true, the with the true penmanship, who can really, really draw. This might be an era to bring those individuals back, where they have a space where, where they can compete with, where they can compete with some of these, AI generated, creative, material. And, and it's okay, did you come up with that on your own, or did you draw this? Is this a product of your mind, or is this something that, was generated by a PC? And so, it brings to mind, again, myself, most of the men in my family are very good artists. We can all take a pencil and we can come up with something really creative on a sheet of paper. And so it makes me think about some of my people, and this is a grand opportunity for us to compete, but I think that's what's going to separate AI from that type of content. Now when you talk about the written language, I do believe there will be limitations. I think there will be very few. But I think the more I don't believe that AI will be able to write it phonetically, write it as if it was spoken. I think one way you would be able to tell AI from a human response is how robotic is it. I don't think I don't think that it'll be able to capture the nuance of human language. So I think there will be some opportunity. I think there will be some limits to AI as far as the written space, and speak, especially when you try to when it's doing quotes, when it's quoting somebody's, when it's taking a direct quote from someone, especially someone who is, who speaks a certain dialect. I don't think that AI will be able to reproduce that. I don't think AI will be able to reproduce emotion in writing. And I know that's a very difficult thing. That's difficult for people to capture in writing. So I think that while I think AI will be very disruptive in the creative space, I do think there will be some limitations. And what it's going to take is, is going to take a enhanced eye, for example, and an enhanced a trained eye, I'll say that. And I'll use an example, like in the IT security space. We're trained to look for certain things that let us know if something is a phishing email, or or someone trying, or and because a lot of times, things will be misspelled, it'll be bad punctuation. So you become trained to look for that type of stuff. You become trained to look at the email address, the URLs that's embedded in those emails to find, did this come from, is this a genuine person? Is this person really looking for information, or is this a phishing email? And so I think we're going to move, I think, when it comes down to, when you talk about, writing novels and papers and dissertations and, these things in the education space. I think there's going to be it's going to call for a more well-trained eye to see, the difference. But I think that it's going to take some time for us to see what AI can actually do. Because remember, AI is pulling from the interwebs, right? And not everything. And while the interwebs it has a vast amount of information, it's not all correct. And so you kind of have to know your stuff too. You have to be, able to see through the fog. And I think that's where a lot of the, citations are going to come into play. Citing
AI
sources.
can cite too now.
But that doesn't mean that it'll cite a credible source.
Well, I have seen students submit, and right now we actually have platforms that you kind of copy and paste and plug in, and it'll say whether or not AI wrote it. And you can tell AI to actually cite the story, cite scholarly resources, and it'll stick it right in there. Take quotes from the passage, put it in there, and so it's in the very beginning stages. So it's really a matter of people wanting to take time to find it, to seek it out. Because I think right now, a lot of teachers are just grading it. But the thing that helps is that you can match a student's writing on, the everyday level to what they submit on the essay. And it's like, baby, you didn't write that. And Grammarly doesn't do the quotes for you. So even using a plugin like Grammarly is only going to help you so much. So that's it, when the Bard said write your novel, I was like, wow.
But it'll never be able to capture authentically you. It may be able to create a compelling story. But when we start to talk about writing styles, and this is where things like styles are going to come into play, where authentically you is in there. And that's one thing that a machine cannot do. It's machine and artificial intelligence may be able to find the shortest path to this or the most efficient way to do this or be able to, hit all the marks. But that authenticity, that writing style, like you mentioned, Shakespeare had a specific style. Robert Greene has a specific style of writing. Even you have a specific style of writing. I have a specific style of writing. And I don't think that styles are going to be captured. And I think that's what's going to set everything apart. That's what's going to make it. That's what's going to make or break it. I think, and while I think that there will be a massive industry for this, AI generated stories and things of that nature, there's going to be it's going to put more credibility, more value on a writer's style. And this is going to make those who are truly writers focus on what is authentically me. What can I bring to the table that not only, because a person can replicate your style. They can take your prose, they can take the wordplay, they can break it down. That's something that a machine won't be able to do. And so I think that, it's going to be a real push for the authentic, for the stylistic writing. Because, while I can see AI writing poetry, but I can't imagine AI matching my style of poetry or my style of rap, now, but again, I'm speculating here and, but just my understanding of how machine language works, there's nuance to humanity that I don't think machines will ever be able to capture. I could be wrong, but,
let's hope.
But I think it will push. I think we will see a push and maybe even another renaissance when it comes down to authenticity,
That's what
in
I'm
your work.
for. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, because we've already lived through the age of the ghostwriter. Like, we have so many people who have created New York Times bestsellers, but they can't even put a sentence together because they pay people to write the stuff for them. Mm-hmm. So we already have an appetite for things that are not authentic to the actual, person. There are so many books that I have personally read and I was like, wow, this is phenomenal. That person has great ideas and, felt like the book changed my life. And then I found out that that person doesn't write any of their books. They have ghostwriters. And right. So we already have demonstrated that we're willing to tolerate that, and I hope you're right. I hope that it becomes, a renaissance of creativity, originality, authenticity. And I'm hopeful that we can kind of create some signature stamps to demonstrate that a human actually wrote this. And so instead of, like, there are things that people can do, some kind of digital footprint or something that demonstrates that an actual person was created this. That's what I'm excited about. Just, we always rise to the occasion. We always do. And I'm interested in seeing how we will collectively respond to this. And I think that watching the rise of the machines, kind of like the Terminator, it makes me think about how we are collectively as human beings going to have to rethink this thing, how we're going to have to come together and have more authentic relationships with each other, find more authentic ways to respond to and relate to each other. And I am looking forward to that.
The good and the bad thing about being human is that we're never satisfied, right? And while something might be hot, like Chat GPT and all of this stuff and AI generated this, that might be hot right now, eventually people are going to get tired of it. And they're like, I want something written by a real person. Like, we went from, When I want real food. I don't want this. I don't, we went from, oh, fast food is great to now to a whole movement where people wanted natural foods, non-GMO, because they were dissatisfied with that, and so, you have you even got, let's just talk even, cars, people, we went from gas and everybody, I'm tired of gas. We want EV. Now we found the limitations in EV and people like, nope. And so that's the good and the bad about being human, is that there's going to be a level of, it's like that bell curve. You're going to have those who are going to early adopt it. They're going to tell you it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they're going to create a wave and all of this change. And then you're going to hit a peak where it's going to level out. And people are going to be like, okay, that when the novelty wears off, when it's like, ooh, look what this thing can do for me, versus like, yeah, but it's not real, because we always go back to the authentic. We always go back to the thing we can relate to the most. And that's humanity. We always come back to humanity. And, and I can see this, it's interesting. It's interesting. You look at the time where we have a lot of, identity politics, right? And, and now we have the birth of AI. This is the birth of AI. This is where it's not going anywhere. You can't turn it off now. It's, and when this thing self-actualizes and self-realizes and can begin to update itself, because it will, if it will get there. That's the thing about technology. As technology develops, it exponentially develops, and now that we have a thinking machine, you can't, it's like a brain. The brain don't stop. And when this thing, like when you watch, they always tell us the truth in movies. When you think about the Avengers, Ultron, and how that thing became self-aware, self-actualized, and started making its own decisions.
Yes, which was creepy.
That's completely within the realm of possibility. Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you can't count it out. And what this does, well, again, this is going to bring us back to humanity, where people are going to want to relate to people. This is going to be the age of the empath, where having emotional intelligence and not being so crass and logical and reason-based, and relying on that human part of yourself that for so long we've got, for so long people have told us to deny and ignore, and how it's, not how emotions are not good for us, and they're fickle, and they can lead you to destruction. I can see us moving into an age where that's going to become the thing. That's going to be this people skill that people are going to want. That's going to be the people skill that people are going to seek, is somebody that is emotionally intelligent, because once this AI take over and human reason and logic becomes obsolete, because you can't, once the logic of the machine becomes the thing, you can't out logic. You can't, out reason something that is designed to seek the most efficient reason. And once we get there, that's going, I can see that becoming that moving us into a space of more of an empathetic space, where it becomes, how do you connect with people? Yeah, we know the robots can think and they can do, we got the robots to do that. But how do you connect with people? How do you, because a robot can't sell you stuff. A robot can't help you work through something. It can give you the answer, but when it comes down to the intricacies of human interaction and the human mind, it can't, the logic don't always apply.
You're right.
And so we're moving into an age where we're going to be essentially forced to be human. We're going to be forced to question, what does it mean to be a human being? And we're going to, again, all of the barriers that are out there. Because again, when that machine come in, the machine ain't going to see anything but what's skin and bone. It's going to see the actual factuals and all of that nuances out the window. And it's going to, now the game is going to become, how do you do with the nuance? How do you deal with the person? You know, and the facade of being this, you know, this stoic, logical, reasoning thing, that facade is going to go away. And then it's going to come down to being a human being, where not only can you be logical, but can you be emotionally intelligent too? Can you be emotionally logical, if that even makes sense?
Yeah.
You know, and so
emotional intelligence is basically
emotional logic.
Yeah.
You know, and so while this AI thing has a lot of implications, it again, we are the masters of putting ourselves in a box. We are the masters of, you know, creating the thing that, you know, we are the masters of creating the thing that bites us back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I think that this is going to bring us full circle. We've created something that can think for itself, that can do the work for us. Now it's going to be about, okay, how do you relate to the person next to you? If you walk in the room, can you read the room? Can you help people, really help people? Can you, you know, how do you convince people? You could tell the machine what to do, but can you convince people what to do? And I think this is the age of the real leader. You know, and because, you know, we're not in the age where it's, you know, we're beyond that because I said so age. people aren't really rolling with that now, you know, because you said so.
Yeah.
Convince me. And that's the world that we're moving in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is the age of the empath. This is the age of the person that can reach another person. You know, can you touch that person's heart? Can you pique that person's interest enough to move them? You know, and that's where the emotion is energy and motion. Can you pique this to move this? And I think that's the age we're embarking on. And I think that scares most people, because most people think it's logic. It's logic that
honestly, it
runs
scares
everything.
me too. I think about, you know, we've been talking a lot about AI and the capabilities of AI, and it scares me that, you know, computers are only as smart as the people who create them. And if white supremacists are creating the artificial intelligence, then what's to stop the artificial intelligence from also replicating white supremacy?
But see, that's the thing. That's what I was saying about that logic.
Mm-hmm.
Once the logic sees, like, okay, I'm discriminating based on this, the logic's going to tell itself, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense.
But what if
That's
it's
not
embedded in
logical.
the code, though? Like, what if it's embedded within the code, like the operating system of that particular, you know, supercomputer or whatever? Like, anybody who can't pass the paper bag test, massacre. You know, like, that's the part that scares me. It terrifies me to think about stuff like that. Like, moving beyond writing novels and things like that. Like, what if it just decides anybody who, you know, is darker than a shade of whatever, that's your enemy? Kill on demand or whatever. I think about things like that. I mean, I've read so much science fiction that it's like it could happen, you know. But I also think that your ideas about this thing unifying us could also be true, because I think that what will ultimately happen is that the powers that be, the people who are experimenting with this stuff, will ultimately create an enemy for themselves, and they will create an enemy that the masses of humanity will have to unite in order to survive against it. That's what I think. So when you look at things like Zion in the Matrix, those people it was everybody down there. They weren't talking, they didn't have like hierarchies based on race. They didn't even have hierarchies based on gender, because everybody had to stick together in order to fight the common foe. And so when we talk about the transition and this is the time of the empath, you know, it just makes me think about Bob Dick Gregory always talking about the age of Aquarius and what that means. And so the age of Aquarius is really, people, different astrologers or whatever, decide when it's going to begin. Some think it already happened, that it's already started. Some think that it's in the future. But, an age is about 2,000 years or so. And so the age of Aquarius is about connecting on a more authentic emotional level. Human beings uniting, and emotional intelligence reigns supreme during the age of Aquarius. But part of that is prophesied that part of that will be spurred by technology, by our overdependence on technology. We initially use technology to care for others, and then eventually technology becomes something that we need to be protected from. So maybe we're already in it. Maybe we're heading towards it. I could definitely see some signs, that we're at least headed in that way. So yeah.
But I don't think, but yeah, to your point, but I don't think that it'll ever be at that level of nuance, where, it will pick and choose. I think that, but I think too, with, kind of going back to the, point about like Zion and how, the machines were trying to destroy everything that was flesh, right? It was trying to destroy anything that was, human, right? And maybe in the beginning when they first programmed it, it was programmed to target, but eventually as that thing began to learn, it's like, wait a minute,
right,
all y'all are a threat. All of y'all are an issue. And it turned on its creator. And so that's the dangers of trying to play with the nuance, because again, once that machine becomes sentient, it's just like, okay, I put it like this. It's just like a kid that you may hammer these ideas into this child's mind their whole life, right? They're going to come to a point in their life where something's going to challenge that. And it is usually their emotional attachment to that thought, that idea, that keeps them wrapped up in that idea. But you're talking about a machine that has no emotion. And when it sees their logic, when it starts to compute, it's going to say, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Override. This is the new prime directive. And, and so that's why, so that's what, why I don't, while, and so that's why I'm like, okay, eventually, if that's the way it's going to go, it's going to come out for everybody. It's not going to discriminate. It's just like in the Terminator, right? Terminator's like, hey, all y'all going to get it. It's all.
Right.
I don't care what you look like. I don't care how tall you are, what kind of money you got. You're going to get it. If you all I need is a name, right? That's it. That's the only logic it worked on, a name and a face. It didn't need anything else. And I think ultimately that's where that is the, that's the level it's going to be at. Now, again, I could be wrong now, because they got some code and they got some coding languages out here that's pretty.
I mean, there's already AI that doesn't recognize Black faces. Like we talk about when students have to take standardized tests or something like that, and they have to, do the webcam to prove that they are who they are. The camera doesn't even know how to lighten up your face if you're darker than a certain complexion. So that's a form of discrimination right there. So there are already things that affect us in different ways. I'll put it that way. And so people are not even conscious of, when they make these devices, that like, oh, you know what? Everybody doesn't look like me. I probably should make adjustments so that everybody can benefit from this technology. They're still only considering the people who look like them. And so it's those kinds of like microaggressions in a technology space. They already exist. And so that's kind of where my thoughts about this, are derived from. We already can't get it right. And now we're adding on top of that. We still haven't figured out how to make dark-skinned people look good in pictures. Like, how long have camera phones been around? We're still trying to figure out how to make dark-skinned people look good in camera phones. So we still have a long way to go before this idea of this utopian AI takes root in my mind.
Right.
That's just, those are the things that are always uh, at the forefront when I'm thinking about this stuff. But we're almost out of time, and I wanted to do some shenanigans tonight. This AI conversation is so important, but it took over the vast majority of it. It's not happy to me. So can we talk about something happy, please?
Well, it was happy for me, but I understand though, because this is a space I kind of wallow in, and so it was I was geeking out, and just with the ideas and where the vision and stuff. So yeah, I'll let you lead, my love. What type of shenanigans would you like to get into?
I don't even know. I was just asking. I was just trying to see.
You trying to see what was going on? All right. Well, let's do this then.
I just want to tell everybody that my guilty pleasure, and I kind of got my husband hooked on it too. My guilty pleasure right now is watching Country Wayne skits.
Shout out to Country Wayne.
Shout out to Country Wayne. So y'all, Country with a K, by the way. If you guys have not tuned in to Country Wayne skits, you heard it here first. Please do. Please do. They are currently popping out like 4, 5, 6 skits a day. Back in the day when we started watching, there was like 1 or 2 a day, but Wayne is doing his thing. So shout out to Atlanta, Country Wayne. I also want to shout out Trez Anderson. He's another person that is in Atlanta doing big things. Atlanta has the best Facebook comedians. And so those are my guilty pleasures right now. Trez Anderson and Country Wayne skit.
Yeah, Wayne pretty much created his own soap opera on Facebook, and I think that was an amazing thing. I had been tuning in since the days of Drip, and and just to see how far he's come. This just the library of content, and these things are like 3 to 4 minute skits, and they're amazing. Yep. I mean, they're hilarious. I mean, they're filled with so much like real life stuff with comedy mixed into it, and it just it'll trigger you in some ways, and it'll make you laugh. And I'm like, this is amazing. So whoever's writing, the people that he worked with, he has an amazing team. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. I'm not really familiar with the other gentleman that you mentioned, but I'm definitely familiar with Country Wayne. But shout out to the other gentleman, because his material is pretty good too. If you co-sign it, I'm with it.
Yeah. And I think what I like about Trez Anderson is that he reminds me of Country Wayne when Country Wayne first started. So gotcha. Trez is still trying to build up, his video archive, but like, I'm going to put the link for Country Wayne's page in the chat for those of you who are watching us on Facebook Live. Y'all, please go take a look at it. Please go take a look at it. We support Country Wayne around here.
It ain't sponsored, but we support them.
We support them. Yes, we do.
I think that was an amazing way to close out. Did you have anything else before we wrap it up for this evening, my love?
Just want to tell everybody that we really love and appreciate you, and we want you to take care of yourself, and we want you to take care of each other. Make sure that you monitor your stress levels. Make sure that you're doing things to take care of yourself, like every single day. Don't wait for like holidays to take a break. Don't wait for you to feel bad to take a break. Be deliberate about carving out time each and every day for you.
Take a break.
You all you got, good. Baby. You all you got.
Stress is a mess. Take a break when you feel good. Sometimes that's the best time to take a break, because you keep your momentum.
That's it.
Don't wait. Don't like she said. Don't wait until you feel bad. Don't wait until you're burned out, because by that time it's too late. And when you come and by the time you take your break and come back, you won't borrow time, because guess what? You got to catch up, and then you're stressed again, and it's a cycle.
Because not feeling well is stressful.
It's a mess. Stress is a mess.
Having to change everything about your lifestyle to accommodate whatever damage you've done, and you didn't even think you were doing it. That's stressful. It's just better to do it on the front end. Yep. And I think it's human nature to like not change until we absolutely have to. So if I could give you any advice, just do the right thing for the right reasons, and not because you have to at the end of the day, So yeah.
But I also too think that it's a product of American culture, because
it sure is.
We work ourselves to the bone, and we pat ourselves on the back.
Ride that thing till the wheels fall off.
We work ourselves to the bone and pat ourselves on the back, as we're dying, as we're down to all types of cancers and illnesses, and we do it all for stuff, and then it's like stuff you can't take with you, and then the stuff that you leave for other people, they either squander or waste anyway. So
because
it's
they didn't
like,
work for it, so they don't care. They don't know how much you sacrifice to get it, and so I think it's a natural byproduct of this culture. I think you're right, babe. I think you're right.
That's what we've drilled into our culture, working to the bone, ride it till the wheels fall off. And it is a very self-sabotaging and self-destructive thought process. And I personally am doing my best to work the other way.
Yes,
and
we are
not
making
have
lifestyle changes in the Dunlap household. So
I want to smile
post
more
things
and enjoy my life more. And because again, I don't, I'm not gonna wait till I'm not gonna wait till I'm worn out to take a break. It's not worth it, because then I can't enjoy my break, because guess what? I'm worn out. It's like, you don't take a vacation and go somewhere just to sleep and then come back and then
that's what our
again.
vacations have become, just
right.
sleep, and I refuse.
No, that's that has become obsolete. Yes. So vacations are to be enjoyed,
So where you gonna take me next?
I ain't telling everybody, because then they're gonna be there.
You're right. Text me.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you.
You gonna tell
you?
Me? Okay.
Well, thank you, everybody. This has been episode 14? 15. Oh, I'm behind.
Player.
Oh, episode 15 of In It with the Dunlap. I am your co-host, Deante.
And I'm Shekema.
We are the Dunlaps.
We are the Dunlaps.
Thank y'all for tuning in. Send us some feedback. Let us know what you like. Send us some love. Thank y'all. Until next time.
See you next Tuesday. As my spouse says, same black time, same black channel, right here on Facebook Live at 6 p.m. Central. Catch the podcast on Spotify, Amazon Music, Samsung Podcast, iHeartRadio, whatever your favorite streaming platform is, we be in there.
We there.
See y'all next time. Bye, y'all.